In 2026, the American electrical grid is facing a silent takeover. The rapid expansion of artificial intelligence and high-density cloud computing has triggered a data center gold rush, with facilities now consuming more than 4% of total U.S. electricity. These energy vampires operate 24/7, requiring massive, unwavering power loads that are increasingly coming at the expense of residential stability. From skyrocketing utility rates to the delay of coal plant retirements, the surge in AI infrastructure is creating a data center blackout risk across 7 key regions. Here are the 7 U.S. regions where your electricity is being diverted to power the AI revolution. 1. Northern Virginia, Data Center Alley. The reality: Northern Virginia is the undisputed data center capital of the world, housing nearly 4,000 megawatts of capacity, more than the next 5 largest U.S. markets combined. In 2026, data centers consume a staggering 26% of the state's total electricity. This concentration has created a once-in-a-generation energy crisis, as demand outpaces the state's ability to build new transmission lines. Residents in Loudoun and Fairfax counties are seeing the direct impact in their monthly bills, with some estimates suggesting a 25% increase in residential electricity costs by 2030 to fund the massive grid upgrades required by big tech. To keep the lights on for the servers, Virginia has become the nation's largest net importer of electricity, pulling power from neighboring states and delaying the closure of carbon-heavy coal plants. 2. Central Ohio, the Silicon Heartland. The reality: Ohio has rapidly climbed to the number 5 spot for data center density, with nearly 200 facilities now operational or in development. In 2025 to 2026, Ohio residents experienced some of the highest electricity bill spikes in the nation, with average residential rates jumping 23.3% in a single year. The strain on the PJM interconnection, the regional grid serving Ohio, has forced regulators to intervene. In July 2025, the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio, PUCO, approved a new data center tariff, requiring these facilities to pay for at least 85% of their projected power usage even if they don't use it, to prevent homeowners from footing the bill for ghost infrastructure. Despite these guards, the sheer volume of AI projects in Columbus and New Albany continues to push the local grid to its thermal limits. 3. The ERCOT grid, Texas. The reality: Texas is projected to become the largest data center market in the U.S. by 2028, with demand expected to exceed 40 gigawatts. Unlike other states, Texas operates its own independent grid, ERCOT, which is already famous for its vulnerability during extreme weather. In 2026, the influx of AI data centers and crypto mining facilities is expected to increase ERCOT's retail electricity sales by 14%. To prevent a total grid collapse during summer heat waves, the state has begun implementing reliability services that allow the grid operator to forcibly curtail data center power. However, the cost of building new natural gas plants to support these centers is still being passed down to consumers, who face increasingly volatile real-time pricing during peak demand periods. 4. The Georgia Corridor, Atlanta and beyond. The reality: Georgia Power recently received approval for a staggering 10-gigawatt expansion of its power plants, a move almost entirely driven by the tsunami of data center requests. Critics argue that utilities are overestimating the AI boom to justify building new fossil fuel infrastructure, creating a risk that regular customers will pay for overbuilt plants that data centers may never fully utilize. In 2026, the state legislature is debating bills to suspend tax exemptions for these facilities as residents complain about the green energy stalling. Instead of transitioning to renewables, Georgia is falling back on natural gas and extending the life of coal-fired units to ensure big tech's hyperscale facilities never experience a millisecond of downtime, even if it means higher emissions and rates for local families. 5. The Pacific Northwest, the hydropower drain. The reality: Washington and Oregon have long been favorites for data centers due to their cheap, clean hydroelectric power. However, in 2026, regional planners warn that data center demand could soon consume enough electricity to power the city of Seattle 5 times over. Multiple public utility districts, PUDs, are now facing requests for power that are 2 to 3 times their current total retail load. This hydro drain is pitting big tech against environmental mandates. To meet the needs of the servers, utilities are being forced to purchase expensive, dirty power from other markets or consider emergency conservation measures. The struggle to keep the cloud running is now directly threatening the region's salmon recovery efforts and its 2030 carbon-neutral goals. 6. The desert Southwest, Arizona, and El Paso. The reality: in regions where water is as scarce as power, data centers are facing a dual resource crisis. A single large data center can consume up to 5 million gallons of water per day for cooling, the equivalent of a small town. In 2026, residents in Phoenix and El Paso are pushing back against new Meta and Google projects, labeling them water thieves in the middle of a desert. While companies like Microsoft are piloting zero-water cooling designs, the energy required to run these mechanical chillers is even higher, further taxing the overstretched Arizona grid. As the Colorado River remains in a state of Tier 2 shortage, the choice between cooling AI chips and providing drinking water to residents is becoming a central political flashpoint. 7. The Midwest Wind Belt, Iowa and Nebraska. The reality: Iowa and Nebraska have marketed their wind belt as the perfect place for green AI, but the sheer scale of demand is breaking the model. In 2026, Iowa's electrical load is projected to increase by up to 60% by 2030. While 63% of the state's power comes from wind, the intermittent nature of renewables can't satisfy the 24/7 flat load requirements of a data center. This has forced a desperate push to restart the Duane Arnold nuclear plant and build new natural gas peaker plants. Residents who were promised that wind energy would lower their bills are instead seeing rate hikes to fund the transmission lines that bypass their small towns to deliver clean wind power directly to the massive Google and Microsoft campuses in Council Bluffs. The 2026 data center boom has revealed a harsh truth: the digital world is anchored to a physical, finite grid. As we have seen in regions like Northern Virginia and Ohio, the transition to an AI-driven economy is not a weightless evolution. It is an industrial-scale expansion that requires more copper, more water, and more coal than the U.S. has added in decades. The stealing of electricity isn't a literal theft, but a systemic prioritization, where the uninterrupted operation of a large language model is deemed more economically vital than the stable utility rates of a middle-class family. Ultimately, the 2026 takeaway is that the grid is the new gold. The regions currently hosting these clusters